And what gave me part of that inference was my mother, when I was a little kid, I can barely remember it. She used to go to college, and she took me to class with her because she didn't have a babysitter.
Yeah.
And subconsciously, I remember going to college with my mom. I don't remember one thing, not the building, not the classroom. I remember sitting at her leg, sitting on the floor, holding her leg, but I remember being there.
No.
And I can tell you nothing about the experience other than I was there. And it's in there. So you might not think you remember, but the imprint you put on his heart and the imprint you put on his life, when the time comes, it'll come out. Ladies and gentlemen, it is your host, Andre Norman. We are still here, and we're back in Gillette Stadium. We have with us a phenomenal guest. I'm saying, how many Super Bowls did you actually win?
2. Only 2. Been to 3.
Been to 3. We ain't gonna count the one you didn't win.
Yeah,
we don't count those.
I still remember that one though. That one I probably remember more than the other ones.
Mr. Dave Andrews. So how you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is your building. We're in Gillette Stadium. I don't
spend a lot of time down on this end though.
Oh, you stay on the field?
Yeah, field and in that locker room. So.
Do you look at the trophies out front?
I mean, we pass them every day coming in.
So. How is it like walking by those 2 trophies?
It's more interesting walking by the other 4 you weren't a part of, and the tradition, and I think it's a reminder, one, for guys that have been here, how hard it was to get there. It's not easy. It wasn't, just a good day in this winter to win a game. It was a culmination of that whole year, everything you put into it. And then, it's got everyone's names out there. And I think that's a big thing for me, too, because this is the ultimate team game, and it wasn't one person, one guy, one side of the ball. It took every guy on that roster, every coach, every equipment manager, strength staff, trainer.
Everybody's all in.
It's to be successful, it takes a whole organization.
I've seen some organizations, not necessarily football, basketball, baseball, where it starts with leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And leadership comes down. If the leadership is strong at the top and they get it, there's a lot of great leaders, but they might not be sports leaders, and they get it. So Mr. Kraft gets it, and it comes all the way down. I see it.
Yes, it's I've gotten to know Mr. Kraft, as I've gotten older and spent some more time doing things with him, and I'm very fortunate to be in an organization like this. And honestly, I was undrafted, so I had the choice. I was fortunate. I didn't get told where I was going to play. I got to choose, and
you're a smart man.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, if I was going to choose somewhere, why not go? I thought I'd be selling insurance in a couple years or something, right? So I was like, maybe I can go learn something, how a successful organization looks, how something professional and something, they just came off the 2014 Seahawks Super Bowl, so I was like, this is a golden.
It's a place.
Yeah, like maybe I can learn something to go sell insurance or whatever it was I was going to do. I didn't know I'd be sitting here 9 years later. So
on the leadership route, you came with the intent of learning something to go start your own business, which is cool. So even though you're still here and we're happy you're still here, what did you learn?
One, it's not just one person, and it's not just one thing. It's not Coach Belichick. It's not just Mr. Kraft, but there's a standard that Mr. Kraft sets, that Coach sets, that all the assistant coaches have to set, and then then it gets into the players where you're not going to have every player buy in immediately, right? And it's kind of this, but those guys that I looked up to were guys that were Patriots for so long, had done it the right way. I came into a room with a guy like Sebastian Vollmer, Ryan Wendell, these guys my age now.
Is the Patriot way a real thing?
I think so. I mean, it's all I've known, so I'd like to say it's a real thing,
So, team captains.
Yeah.
What do you know about that?
I've been very fortunate. I've been a captain since 2017, so 6 years.
So you came in undrafted,
yeah,
and you worked your way to become team captain. Has to be respected across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you win the respect of all the other players?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think leadership is such a weird thing, and everyone talks about leadership, and it looks different for everybody. And I think you have to have all different kind of leaders. You can't have, all your team captains jumping down people's throats and, doing things. You got to have, like, a guy like James White was one of the best leaders I've been around, but he didn't say much. But James, every day, you knew he was doing his job. He was going to be dependable, accountable.
Led by example.
He led by example. He didn't say much, and
What's your style?
he didn't need to.
What's your style?
I think I'm a little bit of both. I really enjoy being here. I like to let loose in this building, and I think my wife says I'm Football Dave when I'm at work, and sometimes, unfortunately, that gets brought home a little bit, but I enjoy. I like to have fun. I like to be here. I'm intense about it. I expect people to do what's expected of them. That's the biggest thing. I think you build trust in people by, knowing that they're going to do what's expected of them, right? And if you're playing O-line with somebody, to have an successful O-line, you got to have 5 people working on the same page. It's the most interesting position in sports. And so I need to trust that my right guard's going to pick off the blitzer that's coming to, hit me in the head. And if he's not,
you're going to get hit in the head.
Yeah, and then, now granted, things happen. They get paid too on the other side of the ball now, right? So, but, I think when I've been here with guys and having that trust in them, and, and you drill it so much, you work at it, you go through those hard times together, that when it's,
when it's time, it's
2-point play to win the Super Bowl, you know what they're about to do, and you know what you're about to give them. So
we ain't got no close ones. We just win. But as a team captain, now I watch football.
Yeah.
Anybody watch football? Teams predominantly black.
Yeah.
So you're a white captain. You know what I'm saying, and you're not the quarterback, or you're not like the middle linebacker. So how is it talking to the other players? How do you get them to like listen and buy in? What's that cultural gap, or is it one, or is it just football?
I think the locker room is a special place, and I think, there's not as much. I think I noticed more of an age gap. Guys,
just old guys, young guys.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, I can remember even my younger year when I was married, and some guys weren't. We would all go hang out with each other, spend time, and then it's kind of like the married folks either went home, or guys with kids went home. I used to go out with my wife, have dinner with her after being, hanging out with the guys all day, and then, single guys would be, hanging with the single guys. And
so how do you manage the single guys to keep them? There's so much temptation to be a football player.
I think it takes all different kinds, right? You can't just have all leaders that are married with kids.
No. How do you, when a guy wants to go to a club, or he wants to hang out, and it's impacting his play, how do you address that?
I think that's different, right? Because then if it's impacting the play and impacting our team, that's got to be addressed, right? And the biggest thing about being a professional, there's guys that don't go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, and that's fine, and they can still show up and perform. And if you can do that, that more to you. I ain't like that. I gotta get,
What's your bedtime?
Whew, man, last night I think I was in bed at 8:45.
You acting like one of the old guys now.
No, but I don't go to. It's hard for me to turn my mind off. It takes me a while to relax, and there's nights I'll lay there for an hour and a half. But no, I think at the end of the day, all guys want to perform, right? And this is a performance-based business. So if there's something that's going to hurt that guy that's not performing, you got to let him know. And as a young guy, older guy, you might see it that he doesn't see it, because maybe somebody else can do that and still perform. But he can't, and I think you got to address it. And look, there's no one that likes to have more fun than me. Just go watch some of the parade videos from when we won Super Bowls. So,
did you have your shirt off?
Yeah. I had my shirt off, and it was
You did it.
But that was the time to do it, And
Yeah,
there's a time. There's a time for play, and there's a time for work.
Gotcha.
And I think that's I think as a younger guy, you try to explain that to them, and let them know that look, you can do all those things and have fun, and but also at the end of the day, you got a short window to do this, and you might as well pour all those chips you can into it.
As a fan, it seems like a long window, because we don't retire. We just watch every year, and they rotate new folks. But I just know when you were growing up in Georgia, Dan Reeves, legendary coach, he has to be in the Hall of Fame.
Should be in the Hall of Fame.
He's not?
No.
That is a travesty.
It is.
I'm saying NFL commission needs to actually do that, because that man was phenomenal.
It's who actually explained that to me is Coach Belichick. So to go into the Hall of Fame, you have to be as a coach or a player.
Right.
Now, maybe there's the thing is, as well as playing career wasn't necessarily the Hall of Fame.
Definitely a coaching career.
But I think it's coaching career. But they're saying, but overall his life impact on the game is really.
No, they split it in half. It's either playing
Yeah,
or
you
coaching.
can't just
you
go
can get
in.
either or.
Yeah, but
they
like
don't mix them.
You can't mix them. But like if you mix it, I mean, who's done? You know,
His coaching career is phenomenal.
I know, it's
from
a
Cleveland.
travesty.
I followed him from Cleveland out to Denver, all the way down to Atlanta. So what was it like growing up with him as your uncle? So
it was just kind of lightning in the bottle for me because I grew up in Atlanta, and he was the coach of the Falcons, and it was such a huge impact. And everyone always asked me like, oh, like, what did he teach you about football? He didn't teach me anything about football.
you just watched him.
I watched him, and I was too young to know what blocking scheme they were running and type of offense. I didn't know. I like to watch the people, and I was a bigger kid, so I liked seeing O linemen. That was for my confidence, and to be around and like see these huge, giant, enormous people as a bigger kid, that made me feel, because no one wants to play O line in second grade, but I was.
Were you one of the guys who used to play line? We used to play street football.
I've never played another position.
We used to play football as kids, and I played quarterback, and you would come back, I was open. I'm like, dude, you was on the line. You weren't supposed to be out on the field. You shouldn't be open. Did you just run out for passes in the beginning?
I mean, I started playing organized football in first grade.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's my whole life I've been in it. But, I mean, I watched how he treated people off the field and how his players treated people. And that had a bigger impact on my NFL career than.
So is he your mom's brother or your dad's brother?
So he's actually my great uncle. He's my mom's uncle.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Georgia. How was that?
It was all it was unreal. Coach Rick, who I got to play for, just got into Georgia, and they started going to the SEC championship. My first Georgia game ever was an SEC championship game, and I just fell in love with Georgia, and it was. All my family's from Alabama, so except for my grandfather's a Georgia fan, so it was my mom went to Auburn, so it was kind of interesting.
Roll Tide, War Eagle?
My dad was Roll Tide, mom was War Eagle. My dad.
That was a real household thing then.
Yeah, I mean,
I seen the commercials.
Yeah, my dad didn't go to Alabama. He actually went to Samford in Birmingham, but
he was an Alabama fan.
He was an Alabama fan, but I just grew up in Atlanta. Georgia was huge. And that was that. I mean, Georgia. I painted my room red. I mean, I was all in.
You wearing red still?
I'm still in.
So who used to come to your games when you were a kid? Who took you to practice?
My dad. My dad was very involved. He was my coach, and he was hard on me. Very, very hard on me.
Good job, Dad, because it paid off.
Yeah, it paid off. And it's funny now that I have a kid, and and I catch myself sometimes. I'm just like, oh man. But
so back then, did you understand it fully? Or did it seem like mean? Because I've been mean dad to my kids.
It seemed mean. I didn't understand it. And I didn't. He always used to tell me, I don't need another friend. I got plenty, and things like that. And I'm not here to be your friend. And he was always really hard on me. He's really demanding. And it was frustrating. And I grew up playing baseball, and that caused me a lot of strife because I wasn't good enough in baseball. And he was a better baseball player.
Oh, he was better than you at baseball?
And so and I struggled, so he'd push me in baseball, and I couldn't figure out how to adjust and how to
make it work.
And then when football came around, that's where it became like he could push me and I could figure it out, and it clicked, and it was just something that we bonded over, and he always coached me. And then, as we got older, and I got to Georgia, I kind of had to be like, hey, this isn't, Little League football anymore. This is big boy football now. So you're gonna
have to sit him down.
Yeah, we're gonna have to take a step back a little.
He didn't go away easy.
No, but he was always a huge support. And so I mean, my mom driving me around, and I had to lose weight to play football, and I had to play with kids older because I was so big and lose weight. And my mom would pack me carrot sticks and celery and.
2-time state champion though.
Yeah, that was in high school. Then she was packing me a lot of food because then I ironically had to gain weight. So. She really, really helped me out in that front, and they just poured into me.
What was the best lesson that you got from your dad going through that experience?
Man, really, I just think just toughness, and he was just never to quit, and it was okay to lose, but it was never okay to quit, and I think there was a lot of times I wanted to quit, and my first football practice, he gave me the opportunity to quit, and he was like, if you're done, we can be done.
We'll go do something else.
Yeah, and, I just knew that even though that was an option, it wasn't really an option, and there was times at Georgia I doubted myself, and didn't know if I wanted to keep on the journey. And you know,
He
again,
stepped in?
he didn't. He didn't make me make a decision, but he made the decision pretty clear for me. So,
What did he say?
you know, I got in my freshman year, and I grew up hunting and fishing, and all my buddies were, not many of them were playing college football, and you know, I was seeing their college life looked a lot different than my college life, and you know, I was like, you know, maybe this is it. Maybe that was, you know, the end of my journey, and I was just down, you know, and you know, I kind of was like, you know, I think that I'm just gonna hang it up, and I might just, you know, hunt and fish and kind of
Hunt and fish.
yeah.
That's a
hang
job?
out. It was. I think at 18 I thought it was a job, you know. And he said, all right, that's fine. And he goes, you know, you're gonna have to come home. You'll have to leave and get a job. I'm starting here thinking, oh, I got it pretty good here. You know, I'm living in this dorm room. I get all my meals paid for. I really don't have a job. And he was like, hey, you know, you can hunt and fish for the rest of your life. You can do that, you know, till you're 80 years old, until you know, pass away. But you got 4 years left to play this game. So why don't you think on that and pour into that a little bit? And I think that, you know, even though it was about hunting and fishing, you talked about young guys, right? Like, I think that's a good message for anyone, whatever it may be.
Right.
So maybe it's hunting and fishing for some people. Maybe it's other things for people, right? And, you know, it's such a small window. Yeah, I think our lives are such a grand – this is such a blip on the radar in reality, this NFL career. So, again, it just goes back to why wouldn't you give it everything you had?
Right.
You know?
You got to give it your all. So, draft night.
Yeah.
It's become a spectacle now. It's like
Yeah.
the event of the year. It's
Yeah,
almost bigger
it's
than the
unreal.
Super
It's
Bowl.
smart. It's genius.
It's competing with the Super Bowl now.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's phenomenal. It's like because the fans really get to come out.
It's wild.
It's crazy. Where were you on draft night?
I spent one day at the lake, I'm pretty sure. You know, and then day 2.
You didn't go on day 1?
No, I wish.
Did you expect to go day 1?
No.
Did you expect to go day 2?
No. I thought there would be a chance. I played in the SEC. I started 3 years at Georgia. I had, you know, in my opinion, had a very successful college career. You know, I thought, you know, maybe in the 7th round, 6th round that, you know, someone would take a shot, and, you know, we figured it out. Looking back, I mean, I thank God they didn't, because I got to be here.
You get to pick. But what was it like at the end of the draft? You didn't spend all that work, all the little league, all the carrot sticks.
I mean,
two-time high school champion did not get drafted. Even though there's an option on the back end.
I had prepared myself, you know, and I surrounded myself, you know, my parents, you know, they weren't hyping me up, you know, and my agent, you know, he wasn't, you know, feeding me a bunch of bull, you know, and so I had prepared myself. But any kid, right? I mean, that's
it
my
hurts.
dream.
That's
yeah,
all
it hurts. It hurts, and you know, and I can remember everyone, like, you know, being like, oh, I'm going on these visits, and no team came and visited me. No team flew me out. I didn't go to the combine. I didn't go to the Senior Bowl. The only coach that came and saw me was Coach Belichick. Only coach, and it was an awesome experience. I mean, I loved it.
I mean, he's that guy.
Yeah,
He's the GOAT. He's
he is.
official. So when the
And-
GOAT comes to see you, it's like back in the days, Vince Lombardi coming
Yeah.
to see you.
I mean, it was right after the 14th Super Bowl, so I mean, you know, it was an awesome experience. And that comes around, and he told me when he visited me that they weren't going to draft a center. The year before, they had drafted a kid who won the Remington, which is like the best center in college. So he won that. They drafted him. He started as a rookie in the Super Bowl. His name was Brian Stork. He was a really good player, and he told me they weren't drafting a center, which makes sense, right? They
got one.
invested in the 4th round. Shaq Mason, who I trained with, he played at Georgia Tech. He plays for the Texans now. He's still one of my best friends. We played 6 years together. We were training together in Atlanta, and I was helping him snap because people were saying he couldn't play guard in the league, that he needed to play center. So I was teaching him to snap. They drafted Shaq in the start of the 4th round. So I'm kind of like, oh, he lied to me, you know, like.
But he drafted him as a center?
So he called me after the draft and goes, you know, I said something about Shaq, and he goes, Shaq will never play center for us. I'm just going, all right. And still 9 years later, he's never said a lie. He said a lot of truths I didn't want to hear, but he's never said a lie, you know, and that's something I've always appreciated about Coach. He's brutally honest. So when I got the offer, I mean, honestly, the Patriots offered me the most money, my signing bonus, which was obviously big, and to me, and at that time. But then also, like I said earlier, it was just, why wouldn't you come here? I mean, why wouldn't? If you had the opportunity, why wouldn't?
Listen. The world. You heard what the man said. Why would you not want to come here? This is the place to be. There's no question.
Yeah. So I mean, I just, and I leaned on my uncle a little bit and talked to him about it, and but it just seemed like this was the place to be, and like God chose me to go.
He didn't tell you to go to Denver?
No, Denver. I didn't even. I think I had Atlanta, Dallas, and maybe Baltimore. Maybe.
How would you have felt if you went to Atlanta and you was on the other side of their Super Bowl loss? Because you're down 28-3 in the third quarter. How does that feel?
I don't know, because I haven't been on that side. I've only been on the good side.
You would have went to Atlanta. You'd have been on the other side. You'd have been
know.
cheering for 3 quarters.
I don't. It's so hard. Who knows what my life would look like if I was in Atlanta?
How was it to be down 28-3? That had to be embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting there and it's your first Super Bowl, and what a story. You're sitting there, right, and it goes back to Coach telling lies. He told us that week that the Super Bowl is not doesn't feel like a real football game. It feels like it's 2 football games. There's the first half, which is the first game, and the second half. And momentum's very weird in the Super Bowl because there's longer breaks. It's
more
just
TV timeouts. Got to get them commercials in.
Yeah, you got to get those commercials. It doesn't flow like a normal game. And so he told me that, and I'm like, what? It's just a football game, and
No.
surely he was right. And
he's 2-0 in this conversation.
yeah. So he
has to get up to 6. He got 6 rings technically.
So everyone wants to know, what did you guys say at half? Like, what was that halftime speech, right? Like,
talk to me.
Like it was like a miracle speech, like the epic sport movie speech, and it wasn't. There was nothing said.
There's no.
I can remember they came in and we wrote on the board. I think we had ran 45 plays, which is a lot for our first half. 45 plays, something time in possession, make it count or something like that. And,
come on, man.
And
hold on. Hold on.
No, I mean,
this is
so
the
look,
biggest comeback in Super Bowl history.
But you got to look at how we got there, right? So we're driving the ball. I think we had a fumble on their side of the 50.
Gotcha.
Turnover, right? So now we're moving the ball. Like we had Steven Gostkowski. I mean, you got 3 points on the board.
Right.
Fumble. The pick 6, we were on their side of the 50. So now that's 2 scoring opportunities that we turned the ball over on their side of the 50.
Right.
So there's games in football that you feel like you're playing, the score might look like something, and I've been on both sides where you're winning, and it doesn't feel like you got control of the game because there's other factors going on.
So you were losing, but you felt like you were in control.
When you're running 45 plays and had the time of possession, like, you're doing something. Now, we weren't scoring.
You weren't executing completely.
But we were moving the football, and we could feel that. And, we knew that to come back, we were about to have to press the tempo, and that was going to make the plays. I think it's still the most plays ever ran. I think we ran 99 plays in the Super Bowl. And we felt them getting tired. They had a great pass rush. I mean, Grady Jarrett still at a high level, but he was killing it. They had Dwight Freeney on the edge. I mean, I
remember Freeney was in. He's not the same Freeney from Baltimore, but
no, he was still playing really well. But Grady Jarrett had 3 sacks against us. So I mean, they're talking about him being the Super Bowl MVP, he played his tail off. But
in the first half, yeah.
I mean, I think we just knew, and it goes back to that trust, right? Like I couldn't make this Julian Edelman catch, right? Like I had to have Julian know that he was going to do his job, and Tom was going to make that throw, and so was going to run the route to pull the safety, whatever it was, right?
But how did you feel as you started mounting the charge? I mean, does another energy come over you?
Yeah, I mean, it was, and you just felt the dam break, but you just had to, you got to control what you can control, right? Like we can't make up 25 points on one play. I'm going to tell you. Let's go get 6.
When Julio caught that pass,
let me tell you, that was right in front of the O-line.
What was you thinking when Julio caught that pass?
And I think he had a foot issue, and the whole thing was he can't do this, he can't do that. And he went up there and played
and caught. I'm like, whoa.
Oh,
I was listening.
That was right in front of the bench, and we were just like,
that's bad.
But that's where it goes back. Football is the greatest team sport because then Hightower makes the strip sack. But people don't talk about there was a special teams play that no one wants to talk about.
Tell us about it.
So it was a kickoff, right? And I don't know you have to talk to Matthew Slater about it, but we do a kickoff and we end up pinning them deep
in the
not in the end zone, but like deep in their side of the field. And if they it was on one of those drives, maybe a sack to get them out of field goal range. If they had been, at the 25, 30-yard line, whatever it was, they're in field goal range.
Yeah.
And that situation does not talked about, and that's why football is such a great sport, because without that play, it's such a little play.
Little thing, the game's inside of the games.
Without that play, they're probably in field goal range to kick the game, and it's over. So,
but it's not.
It's not.
That's us. We got that one.
Yeah, we did get that one.
So now, biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. What's the biggest comeback in outside of the field?
Man,
when you felt like you was down 28-3 and you fought your way back.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I got benched my rookie year. That was one, and then
we go outside of football.
Outside of football.
Outside of football.
Let me think. I've been very fortunate, man. I haven't had major health. The only health things have been football related, and I think maybe for me, I guess the 2019 season, I had a health scare, and that was probably, a little bit bigger than football.
So you sat out. That's when you sat out for the year.
Yeah, I got diagnosed with blood clots in my lungs, and
blood clots are not good.
No, they're not good. I didn't know that at the time.
So you sat out for a year and got blood thinners and treatment?
Yeah, and I mean, it was a very weird year because one, the whole time I was in the hospital, they didn't know where the blood clot came from. So people get them after surgeries, and it's still a big deal. But like they kind of they feel comfortable saying, okay, you had the surgery, you're okay. And then mine, so I mean, I was getting tested for cancers. I mean, I'm calling family members like, hey, dude, we have health histories, like things I don't know about, because they're asking me all kind of questions. And I mean, I can remember being in the hospital, and they come pick me up at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I come back like 4 o'clock in the afternoon after running all different kind of
Who would go to the hospital with you?
My wife was there with me. She's been a rock star. She's always she actually was in New York, and then either trained or flew back. I can't remember. And she's always been by me. I've been in the hospital for about 10 days in total in my career. I had a kidney thing in 2017 that missed 2 weeks, and I was in the hospital 5 days. She was there for 3 of them because I was in Colorado for 2 of them.
But we got to do this. We got to do this. It was Mother's Day not that long ago.
Yeah.
And you just said the wife was there with you at your lowest point.
Yeah.
Got to give the wife a shout out.
Yeah. My wife, Mackenzie.
No. Come on. No. Not my wife. Give it to her. Forget the fans are watching, the people behind the wall. Come on. Listen.
All right.
That's who you go home to. Act like you know.
My wife, babe, appreciate you. She's been beside me.
No. You talking about her. Talk to. See, we need the fan base because, again, there are people who are watching this who talk about their wives.
Yeah.
They talk about their moms. They don't talk to their moms. Or they don't talk to the people that helped them. I want you to talk to the woman who stood with you at your darkest hour.
I appreciate you, babe. We've been very fortunate, and I'm could imagine having someone else beside me, and watching you become a mother and getting to go down that journey with you. Our son's lucky to have you. I'm very lucky to have you, and that you chose to do this life with me.
There you go. I'm saying. When did you get married? What day?
April 8th, 2017. So we've been 6 years.
Why April 8th? That sounds like a random day.
It was Saturday.
It wanted to be in April, and you picked a Saturday in April?
Well, I wasn't getting married when we had work.
The coach was like, be here.
No, I could have, but she knows I'm not doing that. So she had between March and April, or not even all the way in April, I left from our honeymoon to come back up here for work. So we had from the Super Bowl that year till April 16th.
You gave her a window.
Yeah.
When I got married, I told my wife, we got to get married any place in 617. I'm from Boston.
Yeah.
I said, she wanted to go out to like Rockport, was like on the cliffs overlooking the ocean.
It would have been beautiful.
It was nice. I said, no, I'm from Boston, 617. Pick anything in the city limits, and I'll go there. Because I run youth programs.
Oh.
So I had all these little kids, little girls in my programs. I went to dinner with one last night. They're 9th, 10th graders. They live in the city. They're going through a lot. They haven't really seen moms and dads. And I wanted them to come to my wedding. The highlight of my wedding, I had probably like 10 or 15 little girls from my high school program who stood in the back and watched me get married.
That's awesome.
And had we gone to Rockport, it wouldn't have happened.
They wouldn't have been able to.
Couldn't go. So I said, listen, they got it. they're included. That's part of my life. I'm saying, and so I know you do a lot of charity work and outreach. So tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate, and that was something I had no idea about this organization and what all they do. And, I mean, I got here, and within one of the first weeks, we're going to Boston Children's Hospital as a rookie class, doing things. You're meeting with a lady, Donna, on our team.
Donna's Zepper. Donna's the truth.
So she's
shout out to Donna.
Yeah, Donna's the best. And what I like, Donna finds what you're interested in, right? And so when you're interested in something and giving back, it's a lot more genuine versus than being told,
you're going to go read this book.
You're going to go do this event. And so that's something that I found super helpful. And, it's interesting. Me and my wife talked about this. We've talked about this a bunch lately. This is a really amazing city and an amazing community.
I agree.
And all the people that give back, all the different things, it's amazing. It never ceases to amaze us how many things are out there, and it's, something that every week that you have an opportunity. And it becomes harder once you have a kid, because you're trying to balance spending time with them and spending time with your wife and spending, time. And, this week we have 2 things we're doing tomorrow night and Friday night, some charities that, we're interested in. And, so we've found some things, whether it's Team Impact has been one I found very interesting. And like I said, I love sports, and I just, I don't know if you know anything about Team Impact, but they pair kids, sick kids with college teams.
Gotcha.
And let those kids be a part of the team. And it's not just like a one-time thing. Like I know like Michigan's basketball team, the kid's been on the, sitting on the bench during the games and things like that. So just amazing stuff like that. And another one this week I'm going to is Mass Fallen Heroes, honoring, men and women that, given their life for our country in Massachusetts. It's kind of, a local thing. And, those are 2 things this week that are just, popped up. And
I can tell you this as a dad, and balancing time. My son's going to be 18, and of all the things that he watched me do that had the greatest impact is watching me help other people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the times I sit him down and give him the dad talk, or I help him put the Rubik's Cube together, or we build something. He gets that. But that's a consistent and what he sees every day. But when he sees me go out and help other people, then the conversations me and his mom have about charities, outreach, global politics. I remember one time he called me. He was like, "Hey, Dad, it is so bad what the North Koreans are doing to the South Koreans. I wish they would stop." Because he grew up listening to NPR and listened to his mother on the phone talking about the people being oppressed or going through strife. And now he wants to be a political scientist, amongst other things.
Wow.
And it was those conversations that'd be almost robbing your kid if he can't see you. You don't have to spend your entire life helping people, but he needs to see that.
I'm definitely excited. I took my son. He's too young to remember, but I took him to a breast cancer event this fall with me where we were at the YMCA. And I the main reason I did it, I was like, well, he's a cute kid in my opinion, right? And what grandmas don't love, 16-month-olds. So I brought him, and he was loving it. They loved it, and I know Matthew Slater does it, and I think it goes back to what I said about my uncle, like seeing how he treated people off the field and took time to be genuine with people and things like that. I think that will, like I said, I remember that more about my uncle than anything he did coaching wise.
I'll tell you this: you say he won't remember it. Of all my memories as a kid with my mom, I grew up, got in trouble, and I went to prison, and I got sentenced to prison. I actually stayed in the prison 5 miles from here, MCI Walpole. So I'm at the prison, and I'm there, and I'm getting in trouble, and I'm doing what I do. And one day I woke up and I said, "Man, I'm the king of nowhere. I've become like the top guy in this prison, but so what? Who cares? Nobody cares that I'm like the top gang member in this prison in the middle of nowhere." And I decided I wanted to do something different. And I sat down and I said, "What do I want to do?" I said, "I want to go to college because I want to be successful." And what gave me part of that inference was my mother, when I was a little kid, I can barely remember it, she used to go to college. And she took me to class with her because she didn't have a babysitter. Yeah. And subconsciously, I remember going to college with my mom. I don't remember one thing, not the building, not the classroom. I remember sitting at her leg, sitting on the floor, holding her leg, but I remember being there.
No.
And I can tell you nothing about the experience other than I was there. And it's in there. So you might not think he remembered, but the imprint you put on his heart and the imprint you put on his life, when a time comes, it'll come out.
Yep.
So he enjoyed that day.
I hope so. I mean, so I'm excited about doing more of that stuff with him, now that he's a little bit older. And I think that's important, and I remember going to work with my dad at times and things like going to work with my grandfather. And I do think those, like, leading by example, talking about leadership again, leading by example for kids, I think means a lot more than words, like you just said sometimes.
So is your wife from Georgia as well?
She cheered at Georgia.
Okay.
So we started dating our junior year in college.
So her family's from Georgia, your family's from Georgia?
Both from Georgia, yes, sir.
They get along?
Yeah. I mean, my parents are obviously all Georgia fans now too. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, having the grandkid, has definitely brought everyone a lot more closer too. And so, I think it's hard though. It's hard being up here away from family, and I think we started to figure that out more once we had a kid.
Right.
And
built-in babysitters help.
And then I think you give your parents a little bit more grace once you have a kid.
Yeah.
And you figure out
wasn't as easy as you thought it was.
Yeah. So I think that's been something interesting. You give them a little bit more grace for, things they did. And, you think that whatever decisions they were making at the time, they thought they were the right decisions, and they were just trying to do their best to, impact you.
I agree. So let's do this. We're going to do this for Dad.
All right.
If Dad was sitting here right now,
All right.
knowing what you know, knowing what you just said, what would you want to say to him?
I appreciate you never let me take the shortcut. Always making it hard.
He's crying right now. He's
Well,
like, 'cause
he helped me out a lot.
listen, you're a phenomenal young man. You're married. You got kids. You're doing community work. I'm saying you're raising a family. You're on the greatest team on planet Earth. I'm saying, I have to ask this one question. I believe in keeping it about the person.
Yeah.
But you was a center.
Yeah.
Who'd you hate to?
I've been fortunate. I mean, give a shout out to my college quarterback, Aaron Murray. They throw the ball, it feels like, every play now in the SEC, but at the time he was, the leading passer in the SEC for a while. He still might be. We'll have to fact check that, but
Fact check that.
he was for a while. But like I said, they're slinging that thing around now. And then I got to snap it to one of the best, if not the best. I think the best to ever do it, Tom. So,
Yeah.
and that was
So what was it like from a confidence standpoint
it was
talking
tough.
to Tom?
It was
I've seen the sidelines where he's like,
Yeah,
he's
I mean,
animated. So what is it like being his center or him being your quarterback? However you want to look at it.
He pushes you, and he kind of wants to see if you're going to break, right? If you're going to, I just cramped.
Okay,
Got
well,
me out there
did you-
working. No, he wants to see.
Talk about time you getting cramps.
And talking about him getting cramped, he's going to be like, well, you weren't hydrated enough. You weren't doing your pliability. Let me stand up. So he pushed you, man, and he pushed you real hard. He wanted to see if you would break.
That's a lesson from working with Tom.
Always be prepared,
Always be
and I think no one was more prepared than him, day in and day out. He treated people well. As an undrafted rookie, he knew my name. So for me, that was huge coming in, right? Like, why do you know my name? And
You know why? Because you're David Andrews.
Wow.
You should be known.
yeah,
And
but
you're a
at that
Super
time,
Bowl
I was the
champion.
undrafted rookie. So,
No.
but he,
You were a Super Bowl champion even when you were undrafted. You just didn't know it.
I didn't know it.
Your
yeah.
future's already written.
I can't say enough good things about him. I mean, it was hard learning because I'm learning at this pace, right? And he's up here on what he knows. So now you're sitting there. But it was great because it challenged me to be like, all right, well, like, you made this call. Why do I, like, let me go and try to figure out where this call come from, what it does, and it really pushed me. And I learned a lot from him. And I think we had a good thing. We had a really good time playing with each other.
Well, brother, I thank you for coming to hang out with us. Can you pass one of my books?
Yes.
I'm saying,
Thank you for having me.
oh, man, listen. This is my book. I'm saying
Perfect.
Ambassador of Hope. And that's for you. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate
Keep doing
it.
the great work in the community.
Thank you.